Hey everybody, Dave here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a special Halloween playthrough for Horrified. I have the Universal Monsters version that I brought to the table, and this is a great way to wrap up the month of October this year. We've been doing spooky and horror-themed games, and what a great way to cap this off with some of my favorite monsters, Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein, and I'm going to be playing this with you, a 4-player cooperative game. All of our heroes, which we have not selected yet, will be trying to stop these monsters from spreading terror in our local town. Now, a couple of things about this, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this is when the game released a couple of years ago, the company Funko, they make those little Funko Pops. They make these little mini figures, and they had a special edition of the Universal Monsters in a black and white. So I managed to collect the whole set. I have them for my game, and so I wanted to show those off real quick. So here is Dracula. He's going to be starting off in the crypt. We have the Wolfman. He will be starting off in the mansion. We have the Frankenstein monster. He's starting off in the graveyard. And we have the Frankenstein Bride starting off in the dungeon up at the top of the board. We will be looking at all of the monster boards momentarily as we go through setup, but I just wanted to show where those started off on the figure on the board. I wanted you to see the figures. One other neat thing that the production staff had done for this game is there are a number of villagers that will come out around the board, and we're going to have to help them move to safety. Otherwise, if the monsters encounter them, they're going to spread terror, and I'm going to move the terror track, and we don't really want to lose the game that way. But one of the things I wanted to make note of was we have Wilbur and Chick, and that's a special homage to the Abbott and Costello characters that were in the Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So I thought that was neat that they threw those in the game. Now, the game Horrified is essentially players taking actions, trying to collect items to solve the different puzzles that we need to defeat each of the monsters. And there is a nice reference card that comes in the game that shows all of the actions that we can take. So we can move our characters around, we can guide villagers, we can pick up items, we can share items with people, we can advance, meaning this we can work towards solving the puzzle to defeat the monsters, and finally we can choose to defeat a monster by using the items in their space. And then there's also special actions that will be on each of the heroes. And then on the back side is the monster phase, where we will repopulate the board with some items. There's an event that will happen if the monster is in play, and then the monsters are going to move around and strike everybody. And there's a nice little symbol guide here for all of the monsters, so we can easily tell which ones are which on the monster cards. So I have that off to the side. There are going to be perks that each of our heroes will get, and we have, like I said, we have a number of villagers off to the side. I have them set up over here, and I have a tray with our dice that we will be using during the game to resolve monster attacks. So, without further ado, let's take a look at each of the monsters and what it's going to take to defeat them. So we start off with Dracula, and he has a frenzy level of 1, and there's a little flame above him. He is going to start off as a frenzied character, meaning that there's always going to be a character that is frenzied that will essentially could attack a second time on a monster phase. And it will move around the board at times, and if he's defeated, then the frenzied marker will not pertain to him anymore. It will pertain to our other monsters. But he is seeking blood, so we have to destroy his 4 coffins, and then we can subdue him. So the way that, and you see right here in the cave that we have one of the coffins that are there, And so the way that we're going to be doing that is we will have to go into a space with the coffin, and we're going to have to use 6 or more strength of red items, which are physical items, and then we will be able to smash the coffin, and we will place it where we got it. So here's the other side where it would be smashed if we were to do that one. This is the one in the cave. We would place it here like that on his board to show that it has been smashed. Once we have smashed all 4 of the coffins, we can overcome Dracula by moving into the space where he is at and using 6 of the yellow items, which are spiritual items, to take him down. But Dracula has the ability to use what's called a dark charm. And if we ever roll on the attack dice and a little exclamation point comes up, the current player's hero will move to Dracula's space. So if you happen to be making a move far away from him and that ability comes up, he's going to draw you all the way across the board, and you're going to have to spend time moving back to where you came from. So he could be a little bit of an annoying fellow. But we have Dracula on the board. We're going to have to be aware of what he can do, and looking at where his 4 coffins are, which are essentially the 4 corners of the board, we're going to have to smash those coffins and take him down. All right, next we look at the Wolfman, and he has a frenzy order level of 5, so he actually has the highest frenzy order. So if the marker moves around the board, it will cycle to him last. And he is tormented by his form, and so we have to develop an antidote and give it to him in order to cure him. Now there's a special overlay that goes on the board at setup, and that is for the laboratory. And when we go to the laboratory, we can place blue, which are intellectual items, on a spot matching the item's strength, and then when all the spots are filled, we'll take the cure. So this will stay on the board as long as the Wolfman is in play. So we'll place that there. And we then have, the way that we're going to do this is we will have to go around the board and pick up blue items. And if you see there are strengths of 1, 2, and 3, we'll have to collect those items. We're going to have to move to the laboratory to deposit them here in order to take the cure. And once we have done that, we will take the cure, and we will have to move to the Wolfman space, give him the cure, and use 6 or more strength of physical items, red ones, to take him down. But there are a couple things that the Wolfman has working in, I guess, in his favor. The first time we ever have a Wolfman event, the active player will take this marked token, and then he is now the prey of the Wolfman. So there are certain things that will affect the hunted player. The Wolfman will specifically try to move after him. He also has this, his special ability is a vicious bite. So if he ever rolls and there is the exclamation point, then every person in the Wolfman space is hit. And we're not going to want to have that happen, because he could spread terror quickly if we do not have ways to prevent being damaged from that. And then finally we have our Frankenstein and His Bride. So we have them both on the board, and this is the interesting one because we have to teach them so that they can live peacefully with each other. So until we educate the two of them, we have to keep them apart from each other. And so it's going to be interesting how this works. So we have 2 dials that are on the board. We have one for Frankenstein, and we have one for his bride. We will have to collect specific items. We either have the yellow items, spiritual items, that we will have to use in Frankenstein's space, and we will be able to advance this dial based upon the strength of those items. So if it's only a strength 1, we'll be able to move the dial 1 space. If it's 2 or 3, we can do that. So depending upon the number. So we're going to want to find high strength yellow items to quickly advance the Frankenstein dial, and we're going to want to do the same but with blue items with the bride. Once we have reached their spot, which is 11 for Frankenstein, 8 for the bride, we will be flipping them over and we will see their faces on there. Once we have their faces up together, if we have both of them, then we can continue to use items to move them around, and we actually want the two of them to get together, and then we have defeated them because they will be living peacefully with each other. Now, their special attack is, here comes the bride, and what will happen is the bride will move one space towards Frankenstein. If that comes up, we don't want these two meeting beforehand, otherwise we have the terror marker is going to raise, and it'll be a mess with these two running amok. So we have those are the monsters that we have on the board and how we're going to defeat them. And next we're going to select our heroes and we will draw perk cards, and then we're going to get into playing. Alright, for our heroes, I'm just going to shuffle these tiles up, and we're going to draw 4 of them to see what we have. Let's see, shuffling up. So the first one that we have is the scientist. She has 4 actions, and her ability is she may add 1 to the strength of any items that she uses, and she's going to start at the Institute. So I'll place her tile down, and we'll place her mover, which the blue at the bottom is at the Institute, and the Institute is down in the lower corner of the board. Next one that we have, we will have the archaeologist. He also can take 4 actions. His special action is he can pick up items from an adjacent space, and he is going to start at the docks. So he is our yellow character. He will go at the dock. The next one we have is our inspector, who will also be able to take 4 actions. The special action is place your hero in any non-water space with the monster. This is going to be good, especially for being able to defeat the different monsters, but also working on Frankenstein and the Bride. And the inspector will start at the precinct, so that is the orange character. The precinct is up at the top. And the last one, we shuffle them up, and we have the professor, who takes 4 actions, and his special action is move any hero or villager 1 space, and he starts in the hospital. So he is the purple, and the hospital is down at the bottom of the board. And any time that our heroes get knocked out, they will end up restarting at the hospital, but the consequences for that is the terror level is going to go up. So the next thing that I will do is draw a perk card for each of the characters. So the scientist, their perk card is Break of Dawn. So skip the next monster phase, draw and place 2 items from the item bag. So we can play this during the hero phase, so we'll place that next to the scientist. Our archaeologist has Power of the Ancients, choose 1. Place the mummy in any space or move any monster 3 spaces, so play during the hero phase. So interesting that this card came out with the archaeologist, but the mummy's not in place, so we'll be able to use this to move any monster 3 spaces. That's good for keeping a monster from bearing down on us, or if something happens where Frankenstein and his bride are getting too close to each other, we can move them away from each other. The next card that we have is Visit from the Detective, and this is the Inspector. This is even cooler. Okay, so choose 1, place the Invisible Man in any space or move any monster 3 spaces. So, and we can play this during any hero phase. So these are great. We can play these on any of these cards can be played on anybody's hero phase. So we can play these out of our own turn. And then finally for the professor, we have show a force, place the creature in any space or move any monster 3 spaces. So unfortunately, a lot of our perk cards don't pertain to the monsters that are in play, but they're still powerful enough that we can move them. We can move a monster 3 spaces. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Okay, so we've pretty much got it set up. The next thing I have to do is place 12 items on the board, and so we have an item bag, and we're just going to shuffle them up, and we'll place them on the board. So when I start drawing them out, they have a location on them, and we have a strength. So for here we have this fossil, and it's a strength of 3, and it's going to go at the camp. So we'll place that up here. There's 1. We have a pistol that's going to be going at the precinct. So she could pick up that item right away on her turn and start maybe going after Dracula. We have the kite. This is a strength of 1, and this is going to go at the tower. There's 3, and we're just going to go ahead and get the rest of these out. We have an experiment at the laboratory worth 2. That's 4. 5 is the searchlight at the precinct. 6 is some wine at the church. The 7th one is the rifle that's going to go at the barn. We have the anatomy text, which will be at the institute. We have some garlic that will be at the inn. Our 10th one is the tablet, which will be at the museum. And the museum is here. 11 is a torch, which will be at the barn. And the last one, we have research at the tower. I just need to remember where the tower is on the board, right there. All right, so we've placed those starting items on the board. We're going to get ready to play. All right, so to select who the first player is for this game, it's going to be the player who most recently ate garlic. It's going to take their first turn. In this case, it's just going to be the scientist, and we will be moving from left to right. I have another another Dracula character with the candle. I'll just place it on her to make sure that I know who is in play as we're moving across the board. So she has the ability to take 4 actions, and we already went over on the reference guide what she can do for her actions. When she starts off at the Institute, and the first thing that she is going to do is use one of her actions to pick up an item, and she's going to pick up this anatomy text from the Institute. That is one of her actions. Now, the next action she is going to do is move, and that her next action after that will be to pick up this item at the laboratory, this experiment, and then for her fourth action, she will advance, meaning that she will take one of these items and she will place it on the Wolfman board, trying to work towards getting the cure. She has the ability to add 1 strength of any item that she uses, and at this point there are plenty of blue items out there that she can use her ability on, but we're going to place this as a 2 onto the Wolfman board. So we already have 1/6 of the way of being able to take down the Wolfman. So that is her first turn. So we now have to draw a monster card and see what happens. So the top one is there will be no so a way that this card works, we'll put out a certain number of items on the board. There's going to be no items coming out on the board this turn. And we look down here, it says retreat. Place the creature at the lagoon. Well, this is a creature event. The creature is not in play, but we are more concerned with down at the bottom. So here, starting from left to right, we will move our monsters and we will attack. So starting off with the Wolfman, he's going to move 1 space and attack with 3 dice. Well, the Wolfman is going to move towards the essentially the closest of our heroes, and each of them are 1, 2, 3 spaces away. So we have a choice amongst the players which way to go, and the Wolfman is going to move up to this space here, we'll be able to get the inspector away from him hopefully soon. There are no heroes in their space, so he will not attack. Next, we have the bride is going to move one space, so she'll move from the dungeon into the tower. And there's nobody there for her to attack. And then finally, the frenzied monster, which at this point is Dracula. He will move one space, so he will move from the crypt into the abbey. And there is nothing for him to attack there. So quickly, with the monsters deck, there are a couple of ways in which our players can lose, and one of them is if we run out of time, if we go through all of these cards, this whole stack, and we haven't defeated the monsters in time, we will lose, or if the terror track ever gets all the way to where that skull is at the top of the board. Currently we are at 0. I'll move it up a little bit so you can see. So right now, things are still going good. We haven't really had any bit of trouble from that first encounter. So next, we're going to move over to our archaeologist. And he starts off in the docks. One of his abilities is he can move, or he can pick up items from an adjacent space. While adjacent to him is the tower, he is actually going to use that action to pick up these. Actually, it doesn't matter for him, but he will pick up both of these items and place them in his care. So that's action number 1. Action number 2 is he will move to the tower. Now he is in the same space as the Bride of Frankenstein, so he could actually advance and start teaching her to where she can live civilly with people and with each other. And so he will advance and use this blue item, this research at the tower. It has a strength of 2, so we will advance the bride's dial by 2 spaces. So she's currently at a 2. And we can move the bride 2 spaces away, or we can move the bride in any 2 spaces. So I think we're going to move her to the theater and then up to the barn. So we want to try to keep these guys away from each other. So that's a special for doing that action. And so that was number 2. Actually, no, he picked it up. He moved. That was 3. Number 4 is he will move to the... let's see, can he do? He's going to move to the theater. Hopefully, we do not have the bride coming after him, but we will we'll take a risk of being able to move. He actually has one item with him that if he ever takes damage, he can discard items to prevent having that happen to him. So that's the archaeologist's turn. Let's see what the event card is. All right, we have 2 items that will come out onto the board. So let me grab our item bag and see where those will go to. So we have a stake that will go at the Abbey over by Dracula. And we have a scroll of Thoth. And this is going at the museum, which is right here. Those are some high strength items. That's going to be really good to use with Frankenstein. Hopefully our professor, when he takes his turn, since he's nearby, can go and grab them, but we shall see. Okay, so we have this form of the bat. Place Dracula in the space with the current player's hero. Well, the current player is the archaeologist. Dracula is going to use the form of a bat and move over to the theater. And next, we will be activating the monsters. We do not have the mummy in play. We do have the bride. Of course, she's going to move one space and then we'll attack with 2 dice. So the bride is going to move into the theater and will attack our archaeologist with 2 dice. So let me grab our dice tray And we will roll our 2 dice. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see more of the action. All right, let's roll. Hopefully nothing bad happens. And she is going to do 1 hit. Now, normally if a hero takes 1 hit, they will be knocked out, will advance the terror marker up 1, and they end up going to the hospital. But we can discard items that we have to be able to prevent damage. So he is actually going to discard this kite from the tower to prevent that wound. And so he's going to get by barely with the skin of his teeth, avoiding taking any damage from the bride. And he is now sitting with a couple of monsters that are nearby, so hopefully on his next turn he's going to do something to get away from there. All right, next we're going to move on to the to our inspector, and first order of business will be to pick up the 2 items that are in their space. We have a searchlight and we have a pistol. So we have a 2 and a 6. And that is 1. So needs to start moving towards, we need to, she's got that 6, so it's able to get to the cave. We have a lot of monsters that are there. She's going to move 3 spaces, though, to move up to the camp. Try to get over to the cave and take out this particular coffin. So this is her 2nd action, 3rd action, and then 4th action. And then just as a little bit of protection, the inspector will play their card, visit from the detective, and we can move any monster 3 spaces. So we will move the Wolfman 1, 2, 3 down to the crypt, move him away. Actually, no. 1, 2. We will move Dracula to the mansion. So 1, 2, 3. We'll move Dracula away. Hopefully we don't have another encounter with the bride, because our archaeologist would be in trouble. But she has those are her 4 actions that she has taken. It does not take an action to play a perk card that we did. So, all right, let's see what happens. All right, we have 3 more items that are going to come out onto the board. So we'll see that. And we will have our first villager coming out on the board as well. All right, so we have this experiment going in the laboratory. We have the a rapier going in the theater, and the theater is where our archaeologist is, and we have our wolf's bane going into the camp. All right. So those 3 came out. Next, it says to place Dr. Cranley at the laboratory. So we'll find our villager of Dr. Cranley. And let's see here. We have the Dr. Cranley villager. We'll go into the laboratory down with the scientist. So that's neat. When they are moving, they the scientist could actually move the villager with him, and he is going to want to get to the precinct in order to be safe. So if we can get him to the precinct, then the person who does that will be able to draw a perk card. And finally, we look at down at the bottom as what's going to attack. We do not have the Invisible Man in play. We do have our Frenzied Monster. He will move 1 space and attack with 2 dice. So the closest location for monster, or for our heroes, each of them are 2 spaces away. 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. So Dracula is going to move up with the Wolfman to go towards our inspector. All right, And finally now we're going to move over to the professor for his turn. He also can take 4 actions. Okay. So his first action will be to move to the church. And should be able to pick up this item, and maybe we can get Frankenstein. We can start working on him. So we will pick up this item from the church, and the third action. Let's see, because it was, well, 1 was to move, 2nd was to pick this up. 3rd action is he can move any hero or villager 1 space. He will move the archaeologist up to the barn. And that way be out of the way of the bride, hopefully. And the 4th action for our professor will be to move over into this space here. Maybe we'll try to get some more of these items from the museum, and work on trying to get Frankenstein to be able to live civilly with each other. So those are the 4 actions from the professor. We will draw, and we will see. We have 3 more items on the board, and then we have the delivery. Place Wilbur and Chick at the shop. All right, well, we'll get Wilbur and Chick on the board at the shop. They are actually wanting to go to the dungeon, so all the way up in the corner. And let's get our 3 items out. And, all right. So we have another stake at the Abbey. We have 2 stakes over there. We have a canopy jar that will go at the museum here. Wow, lots of items there. And we have a monocane mixture that will go at the inn. Okay. So we have Wilbur and Chick are at the shop. Next we have to resolve our monsters. Frankenstein is going to move 1 space, so he's going to move to the church. So it was a good thing that we moved the professor out of the way, because he'll be attacking with 3 dice. We have the bride. The bride is going to move up to the archaeologist and attack with 3 dice. And unfortunately, the archaeologist does not have any items to be able to save him. So let's see what the result of this dice roll is going to be. Hopefully we have misses. He is actually going to have 2 hits, and unfortunately, when we cannot do that, our hero is going to be knocked out. So the next time he starts his turn, he will start off in the hospital, but that is going to cause our terror track to move up 1 space. And we will now move our character down. We will take him off the board, and he will then resume his next turn, starting off in the hospital. And finally, we have our frenzied monster is going to move 1 space and attack and with 3 dice, and will go up against our inspector. So again, another brutal encounter. So we have Dracula, and he is going to deal 2 hits. Fortunately, the inspector has 2 items to be able to discard to protect himself. I was really hoping to use this pistol, this 6 strength one, to take out that coffin, but we will discard those just so that we can stay alive, and we do not want the terror track to advance any quicker than we need to. So that was the turn for the monsters. They struck and hit hard for against our guys, but let's continue on. So we're going to go back or start another round with back to our scientist. And our scientist has, they can add strength to any of their items. She also has, if we look down, take a look down at her card, she has another item that she can use towards developing the cure for the Wolfman, which I think is going to be, she's going to spend her actions just working on trying to deal with the Wolfman. So she will pick up one item. That's her first action. She'll pick this up. Her second action, she will advance, and we will place this 2. Actually, what she will do is she will add 1 of her strength to it, and we'll place it here as a 3. And a third action will be to place this one, the anatomy text, as well as, for advancing on towards finding the cure for the Wolfman. So she did. So she has 1 action left, and she will move along with the professor up to the shop. So now she can actually move both of those villagers can move with her. So we're working towards the things with the Wolfman. We have not had a Wolfman event yet, so nobody's been marked. Hopefully that doesn't happen right now. All right, so we're going to have 2 items come out of the bag. So we have a crucifix that will go at the church, and the church is, I have to write where Frankenstein is at, and we will have the analysis, this magnifying glass will go at the Institute. So we'll place that down there. Okay. This is an Invisible Man event. He is not in play, so we won't have to worry about that. We look down here. We do not have the mummy. We do not have the creature. But we do have Frankenstein moving and attacking with 3 dice. So he's going to move into this space with the professor and will attack with 3 dice. So our professor only has 1 item. So hopefully we can avoid getting hit too bad. Let's roll and see what happens. So he's going to deal 1 hit. And so our professor will discard the 1 item that he does have, this wine from the church. He will discard that to avoid taking that hit. Now the special ability kicks in. This is Here Comes the Bride. So we will now move the bride 1 space towards Frankenstein. So she's going to move from the barn to the theater, and they are uncomfortably close to each other. We're going to have to work on getting them away from each other. Okay, we now move on to the archaeologist's turn, and he will pop up now in the hospital, and he has 4 actions. So the first action will be to move to the church. His second action will be to pick up this crucifix, which is worth 4. His third action will be able to move into this space, and his fourth action will be to advance for Frankenstein. So he'll discard this item. It's worth 4, so we will move the Frankenstein dial up 4 spaces. So we'll dial it all the way up to 4, and we can move him 4 spaces away. So let's move him 1, 2, 3. We'll move him all the way over to the crypt. Keep him away from the bride. So that was a productive turn. And let's see. Do we have anybody that's close by? Well, Dracula is still in the space of the inspector. I'm not sure if I wanted to use a perk card to move any of the monster, or move the monster any 3 spaces. Boy, oh boy. I think at this point we're going to hold on to our perk cards. I'm going to take a risk. Hopefully nothing bad happens, but we shall see. All right, so let's move on to our monster phase, and we will have 3 items come out on the board. So we have a kite will again go at the tower. We will have a research at the tower. And the last one is a knife at the docks. Okay, we have a lot of items over there. Now, we have another one of our villagers coming out. Place Maleva at the camp. Okay, so we have Maleva. She's the old lady from the Wolfman movie. Her son was played by Bela Lugosi in there. So we will place her at the camp. And Dracula's already there. That's not good. And she is actually going to try to get to the shop. So down where our characters are over there. So next we will have the the Wolfman is going to move and attack with 2 dice. And then we'll have the Frenzied Monster will move or attack. So actually our Inspector is in trouble. The Wolfman is going to come up and into that space and will attack. Since there's a villager there, though, they will go after a hero first. So let's roll our 2 dice, see what happens. There's going to be 1 hit and 1 of his special events. So unfortunately, our hero is going to be knocked out. She doesn't have anything to be able to discard, so that's going to happen there. That will advance the Terror Marker 1, and then with the Vicious Bite, we'll attack every person in that space. So Maleva, unfortunately, she is going to be killed. And so that will again cause our terror track to move. So we are now up to 3. So that was a bad turn of events for our Inspector. But now on their turns, we'll pop back up in the hospital. And let's see. So her ability is to place your hero in any non-water space with a monster. So she's going to do that. Start off with going to the theater. That's her first action. Her second action will be to pick up this rapier. Third action will be to move to the barn, and fourth action will be to pick up the items that are in the barn. So she has plenty of items that are there. In case the bride comes up to her, she can fend her off. All right, so we will now have our monster phase for that. We have no items coming out on the board. This is a mummy event, so we won't worry about that. We come down to the bottom. We have the Wolfman and we have Dracula. Each will move 1 space. There's nobody nearby, so they will move back to this space here. And we do not have the Invisible Man in place. So those 2 are on the move. I don't really like the fact that the 2 of them are together. But we are still gaining progress towards at least finding the cure for the Wolfman. Let's move on to the Professor. Now, the Professor can move any hero or villager 1 space, but he is going to move himself over to the museum and pick up all 3 of these items. So we've got 2 3s and a 4. So those are going to go on his board, and that will be sufficient to at least ward off some of our monsters if he gets attacked. We can move any hero or villager 1 space. Let's see. We will do that. We'll move the Inspector over into the space with the theater, and the next action will be to move. Again, we'll move the Inspector over to the tower. So we'll use his action twice to move any hero. So we've done that. It's a great way for them to work together. We'll get that inspector over, get her up to the dungeon, and destroy that coffin from Dracula. All right. We will have 3 items coming out on the board. This one is gone. Actually, I should have had that one off the board before. We have a camera going in the laboratory. We have some more wine at the church, and we have our silver cane. I'm sorry, at the shop. So the shop is right there. We'll place Dr. Reed at the Institute. So Dr. Reed is coming out on the board. Here he is from Creature from the Black Lagoon. He wants to go to the camp. And now we will have the, go down to the bottom. We have the creature will activate. He's not in the game, but we will have our frenzied monster. We'll move 1 space and attack with 2 dice. He is going to move down towards the into the mansion, towards the archaeologist. All right. Moving on. All right. So we're back over to the scientist, and so she can move and actually start working towards getting some of these. Some perk cards for her. We need to get to the one needs to go to the dungeon, and the other one wants to go to the precinct. So let's do this. We're going to move 1 space, 2 spaces there. That's 2 actions. The third action will be to guide the, let's see, who wants to go to the dungeon? We're going to send Wilbur and Chick over with the inspector. So we're going to guide them 1 adjacent space. And the next action, let's see, this is at the camp, will be to move to here. And I think we want to do that. Yes. We will then, she's going to choose to play this Break of Dawn. We're going to skip the next monster phase and draw and place 2 items from the bag. So we won't have to worry about the monster phase quite yet. Wanted to be able to position ourselves, and we'll just place 2 items out on the board. So we will have a centrifuge going at the laboratory, and we will have a pitchfork going at the barn over there. Okay. We're going to move on to the archaeologist's turn. He has 4 items. He can pick up items from an adjacent location. So he will do that, pick up items from an adjacent location. He will pick up the wine from the church, and he will also pick up the silver cane from the shop. That's 2 actions. The third action, he will move to the mansion. The third, yes, because he needs to get in the mix here with some things. And the 4th action, he will go into the abbey over there. He will then use the Power of the Ancients perk card to move any monster 3 spaces. So he's going to move the Wolfman 1, 2, 3 over to the shop. And hopefully we will not have something that is going to be bad. He's at risk of losing things, but he does have a couple of items that he can discard at his disposal. So, all right, we have 2 items going to be on the bag, or on the board. Let's see here. We have a nebularium that's going to go in the tower. So we have a number of items that are over there. And we have a shovel that will go at the graveyard. The graveyard's down there. Okay, next we have the meeting. So move the bride 2 spaces towards Frankenstein. So let's see how many spaces. We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so she's going to move through there. And now we look at the bottom. We have the Wolfman is the only one who's going. He's going to move 2 spaces and attack with 1 die. So let's see what happens. And unfortunately, Dr. Reed is the closest, so he's actually going to move into this space and will attack him and take him out, causing our terror track to move up 1 more space. We're at 4. We have 3 spaces left to go, and we have not even come close to defeating any of our monsters. So again, this is a challenge for our players, but we are going to move on now. The next player, it's going to be the inspector's turn. So the first order of business will be to pick up these items that are at the tower. So she's sitting on a lot of items right now. Let's take a look at her card. She has 6 items total. She has plenty of strength. So that was her first action, was to pick them up. The second action, let's go up here. We're going to zoom in. She will move up to the dungeon. So Chick and Wilbur have reached safety. So as a result, then, she will draw a perk card, which gives her Mob Justice. Place either Frankenstein or the bride in any space, or move any monster 3 spaces. All right, awesome. We actually have a card now that's useful during, like for the monsters that we have in place. So this is good. We can keep the 2 of them apart as long as it's during hero phase. Next act, so that was her her second action was to move. Third action will be to we're going to advance on the Dracula thing. We're going to discard this 6 strength rifle at the barn that we got from the barn, and we will crush this coffin that's in the dungeon. So this piece will actually go over onto the Frankenstein board. At the dungeon, we have crushed that one, so we are 1. We've got 1 of them taken out, and the fourth action says they can place any hero, place your hero in any non-water space with a monster. Just got plenty of items that are there, so let's get in the mix and move right up by Dracula. Hopefully, we can protect our. Archaeologist over here. So that's what we've done there. So she is behind the Dracula monster right there. Let's see. We could use the, and you know what? Let's go ahead and use this Mob Justice. And we're going to place the Bride of Frankenstein all the way back at the dungeon. So we want to try and keep those guys apart from each other. Probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. You know what? Instead of placing her at the dungeon, I'm going to place her up at the cave. Because if the archaeologists can make their way up there, if she's still in the area, she has plenty of items in her... or the inspector, I'm sorry, the inspector has plenty of items to be able to teach the bride how it is to live peacefully. So we shall see what happens with that. Hopefully we're all right. Okay, 3 items are going to come out on the board. So we have the camp is going to get one. That's up top there. We have the Institute will get an item, and we have the docks getting an item. We have a knife there. Okay, now it says, on the move. Move the frenzy marker to the next monster, and move each villager 1 space towards their safe location. Okay, so the frenzy marker is actually going to move to Frankenstein now. He is the next one in the frenzied order. And we will move 1 villager 1 space toward their safe location. Okay, we only have 1 villager on the board, and that is Dr. Cranley, who needs to go to the precinct, who will actually reach there. So as a result, on the active player's turn, because that happened, the inspector will we'll just have the inspector drawing a perk card, and we'll get the overstock. Each player draws and places 1 item from the item bag. So we will hold on to that. Right now we've got plenty of items that are on the board. However, the frenzied monster is going to move 3 spaces and attack with 2 dice, moving into the space with the archaeologist. So let's see what happens there. We'll bring our dice tray out. Whoops, knocked over Dracula. And we are rolling with 2 dice and 1 hit. The archaeologist has 2 items that he has with him, and he will discard this wine from the church. He wants to hold on to his silver cane to be able to get down to the crypt and crush that other coffin. So we will discard that, and we will move on to the next player, which is our professor. Now, our professor has a number of items. Let's see if we can go over and see what it's like to teach Frankenstein to be civilized. So we're going to move 1, 2, and 3 spaces into the Abbey. The 4th action, he will let's look at his items that he has. We have 1 that's worth 4 and 2 that are worth 3. We're going to use this one 4 to advance our Frankenstein dial. So we're going to move from 4 all the way up to 8. We're almost there. And we can now move Frankenstein 4 spaces. So where should we move him? We want him as far away from the bride as possible. So let's move him 1, 2. Debating which way we want to go. Do we want to go down 3? And let's go 4. We'll take him over to this bridge over here. I don't necessarily want to crowd him into the laboratory because we need to get back over there. So that was his 4th action. That was good. We are actually getting closer with Frankenstein, being able to keep him to teach him to live in peace. So now we have no items coming out on the board, and we will place Dracula at the crypt. So here he goes down there. All right. So he must be expecting visitors over there. So now we're moving down to Frankenstein is going to activate and move 1 space. So he's going to move there. And then the next one is the frenzied monster will move 1 space and attack with 2 dice. Frankenstein is frenzied, so he will move there and will attack with 2 dice against our scientist. And unfortunately, our scientist does not have any items right now, so hopefully we roll nothing. And 2 hits, so the terror marker is going to go up 1, and our scientist is knocked out. So we've been having not very successful encounters with all of our monsters, but little by little we've been making progress in trying to fend them off. So let's move on. It's actually going to be the scientist's turn. The scientist is going to revive at the hospital. Boy, she's not in a very, very good spot. And her ability is you may add 1 to the strength of any item that you use. And there's really nothing that's close by. Okay. 1, 2, 3. She'll move up to the mansion, and actually, what she will do is let's share. So you can use the share item, and share items between heroes in your space. So the inspector will actually take. We'll take a couple of these items. We'll take these 3 items. We'll take 2 of these items. We'll take the 3 and a 2, and we'll place them with her, so she actually has a couple of things to protect her. Number 1, number 2, we can work on getting the cure for the Wolfman. So she now has 2 of these blue items with her. All right, that's it for the scientist. So let's see what happens. We have 3 items coming out of the bag. Oh man, we are in trouble. We have something going up at the camp. So up at the board, the camp is here. Lots of items there. We have the mansion, we'll get 1. And we have the docks, getting 1. All right, next we will activate, Frankenstein is going to move 1 space. And then an attack. The bride is going to move. The bride is going to move 1 space and attack. And then the frenzied monster is going to move 1 space. And these 2 have met. That's not good. So we're going to move. We're going to move the terror level 1. And then what happens is Frankenstein moves back to the graveyard, and the bride moves back over to the dungeon. So we are actually 1 step away from losing the game, guys. I was kind of hoping that we would have been able to have a little bit more productive game. I have had a very, very low win percentage with this game, and we've got some tough monsters that are out there. So let's move on now to our archaeologist's turn. He can pick up items from an adjacent space. We still have to smash his coffins. That's the problem. So we're going to go 1 down to the crypt. Our second action will be to discard this item, and we will smash the coffin that is in the crypt. So we'll take that and place it over onto his board. The third action will be to pick up these 2 items and place them with him. And let's see, what do we want to do for a 4th action? Well, the 4th action, we'll just go ahead and move back out into the Abbey. So, there we go. Let's move and see what happens. No items are going to come out. Retreat, place the creature at the river. The creature's not in play. We look down here. The Wolfman will activate and move 1 space. He's going to move over to there. The bride will activate and move 1 space. And the frenzied creature will move 1 space. Fortunately, we had nobody nearby for them to attack, so we are all right that way. We'll move on now to the inspector. And let's see. The inspector will move 1, again, move 2, 3, pick up all of these items. Actually, no. Instead of the third, let's see, so it was 1, 2, 3 will move to the cave. And the 4th action, we will discard, well, it's a total of 10, but we will smash the coffin that is at the cave so we can get closer to being able to defeat Dracula. So, all right, let's see what happens here. Oh, okay. All right. So 2 items are going to go onto the board. We have something that will be going to the mansion, and we will have another item that goes to the institute. So down in the bottom there. We look at this now. The hunt is on. If no hero has the hunted emblem, give it to the current player. So our current player is the inspector, so they are now the hunted. And it says, move the Wolfman 3 spaces towards the hero with the hunted emblem. So 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to look and see what happens. We have the Dracula is going to move 1 space and attack with 2 dice. And they both have a number of items. So the Dracula will attack the archaeologist with 2 dice. So let's see what happens with that. Nothing this time. So thankfully, it was not a good attack, and for the monsters at least. And then finally, the frenzied creature is going to move 1 space, so he's going to move there. And now we have, with that hunted token, now the Wolfman is going to be pursuing the inspector. So that's not going to be very good for them. Let's see. We move on to the professor. And let's see. Move any hero or villager 1 space. Which I don't know if I want to do that. And I have to be careful up here. All right. So the first action will be for the professor to move to the mansion. The second action will be to pick up these items that are there. Third action will be to go down into Frankenstein's space. And the fourth one will be to try to advance his dial. So we're going to discard this 3. And that will move our dial up 3 spaces over onto his board, which is going to be enough that we now have Frankenstein. We've been able to turn over his placard, so we're halfway there. We just have to get the bride on board with all this, and we can move him 3 spaces. So I think we're going to move him 1, 2, 3 down into the... I don't know if I want to move him into the crypt. 1, 2, 3. We'll move him down towards the institute, or should I move him towards the crypt? Because, well, the archaeologist still has items. So if the frenzied creature moves, then he still has items to attack. So we're just going to go move him into the crypt. Try to keep those 2 far apart from each other for right now. Then he will use this Show of Force perk card to move any monster 3 spaces. We're going to move the Wolfman far away from the inspector, because the inspector is now has the mark. So we don't want to have bad things happen to her. We don't want to have her knocked out. We can't afford it. We are 1 step away from the terror track reaching the end. So we now have our monster phase, which we'll draw 2 items and place them on the board. And we won't have to worry about the event. It's an Invisible Man event. So we have this pitchfork will come out at the barn, which is up here. And we will have the poker coming out at the mansion. All right. Now we look at our events, and we do not have the Invisible Man in play. And we look on here, and we will see that Frankenstein will move 1 space and attack with 3 dice. So Frankenstein is going to move up against the archaeologist, and we'll roll 3 dice on his attack. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully we can roll blanks again. Ooh, 3 hits. We only have 2 items to discard, so he's actually going to take a hit and he will be knocked out. And unfortunately, that is the end of the game for us. The terror track has reached the end, so we were not able to defeat these monsters. Sadly, as on Halloween, we were not able to be able to get to that. But let's do a recap of the game. Where did we end up with? Well, we had 3 of the 4 coffins were destroyed to take down Dracula. We actually had Frankenstein able to be able. We taught him how to be able to live peacefully. We just needed to teach the bride. So we had some progress towards her. And the Wolfman, we had halfway towards finding the cure. You know, we did actually have one of our villagers move to safety, or a couple of them, so we were able to get some additional perk cards out there. So, you know, I think I love this game. It's a lot of fun. You know, we do have a lot of randomness from the dice rolling, you know, and maybe I didn't make some of the best decisions trying to move around the board, but, you know, you have to be aggressive in going after these monsters. Otherwise, they're just going to, it would be even worse. So you have to put your characters in harm's way, trying to get the items and getting in there. I try to do that, but unfortunately, just some of the cards were just had people at the wrong place at the wrong time. But anyways, you know, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this playthrough of Horrified. I love this game. I hope you enjoyed seeing the bigger figures on the board. I thought it was a lot of fun to be able to do that. And just, you know, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please click the like button. If you've been enjoying what we've been doing, you know, and you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us to be able to gauge our interest and be able to curate the content that we want to be able to provide for you guys to enjoy. And also, again, we've been putting out a lot of stuff, and we want to keep on putting out a lot of stuff, so click that little bell to be notified of all the things that we will be putting out. So thank you guys for watching. Have a happy Halloween, and we will see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.